ये मेरा म्यूट कर। अच्छा फुल टाइम पहन दे।
So, hello, hi friends, good afternoon. Okay, today we are going to be discuss about the law of returns. Okay, in the production analysis, in the production theory, law of variable proportionate and law of returns to scale. These two are very important questions for the examination point of view. Okay, that is law of returns to scale. So here, as we discussed in the earlier class, okay, that is a production function. Okay, when we discuss about the production function, okay, production function, like it will explain the relationship between input and output. Okay, it will explain the relationship between input and output. So this production function, based on the changes in the factors of production function can be divided into two categories. One is short-term production function. Okay, short-term production function. This short-term production function analysis explained through law of variable proportionate. Law of variable proportionate theory. Okay, and the second type of the production function belongs to long-term production function. Okay, long-term production function. So these are the two short-term production functions and long-term production functions are there. In the short term, all factors of production may not be changes. Some factors of production are changing by keeping others are constant. But here, long-term production function, okay, long-term production function are explaining that all factors of productions are changes. All factors of productions are the variables, variable factors of production. So this long-term production function is explained through law of returns to scale. Okay, law of return to scale. So the law of variable proportionate belongs to short-term production function, whereas law of return to scale, which we are going to be discussing today, belongs to long-term or long-run production function. Okay, this law of return to scale, nothing but, okay, the law of return to scale is nothing but, it will explain the proportional change in output with respect to proportional changes all inputs. So because in the long run, all factors of productions are variable proportionate. Please remember that all factors of productions are the variable proportionate. So since they are the variable proportionate, if you want to change the output, all inputs can be changes. Okay, all inputs can be changes. So that's why to change the output, all inputs are going to be changes. So when all inputs are changing, how much the output is going to be increasing or decreasing or constant. So based on that relation, what should be the returns is going to be explaining in the law of return to scale. Okay, law of return to scale. So in this particular aspect, that is going to be explaining. Okay, here the law of return to scale states when there are proportionate change in the amounts of the inputs, the behavior output also changes. Okay, the law of return to scale states when there are a proportionate change in the amount of the inputs, so the behavior of the output also changes. So on what basis it is going to be changes and how much it is going to be changes are going to be explaining in the part of this law of return to scale. The degree of change in the output varies with change in the amount of the input. Okay, the degree of output, that means how much quantity of the output are going to be changes will be decided based on the changes of input. Okay, based on the changes of the input. Okay, based on that, see, already told you, law of returns scale explain the relationship between the amount of the output changes due to changes of the inputs. Based on the output changes due to changes in the all inputs, this returns, the law of returns is returns to scale is going to be divided into 3 categories. Okay, an amount output may changes by large proportion or same proportion or small proportion with respect to the changes in the input. Okay, when the input changes, the output will be changed, no doubt at all. Sometimes it will be changed very largely. Sometimes it will be changes very less. Sometimes it will be remaining constant. Okay, sometimes it will be the remaining constant. So based on this, this return to scale are divided into 3 categories. One is increasing return to scale, and the second is constant return to scale, and the third one is diminishing return to scale. Okay, so again I am repeating that when the input changes, output will be changed. The output changes, sometimes it will be changed very largely. Sometimes it will be changed a very small quantity. Sometimes it will be the remaining constant. Okay, based on the change in the output due to change in the input, the returns to scale is divided into these 3 categories. That is, increasing return to scale is one category, constant return to scale is another category, and diminishing return to scale is another category, what we can say. Okay, these 3 categories we are going to be divided. Okay, here, when we are talking about this return to scale, okay, that is first one is increasing. Okay, increasing return to scale. Okay, increasing the return to scale. So in case of the increasing return to scale, here the proportionate change in the output is more than the proportionate change in the input. If that is the case, that type of the returns is known as the what is called increasing return to scale. For example, inputs, okay, inputs are changed or increased by 20%. When the inputs changed the 20%, but output, okay, output changed by around 40% or more than 20%. So the change in the output is more than the proportionate change in the output is more than the proportionate change in the input. So this is called increasing return to scale. So in case of the increasing return to scale, okay, in case of the increasing return scale, this will be, okay, this is called expansion path. Okay, in the production theory, generally it is known as what is known as the expansion path. These are known as the isoquant curve. Okay, isoquant curve. Generally, isoquant curve will explain that the total output will be the same in all the points in the same curve. Okay, that is what we can see. So here, when we are talking about this particular thing, okay, in case of the return to scale, whenever the inputs are increasing, the output is increasing more. Okay, if this is the case, like Okay, it will explain the increasing return to scale. So here to increase the output, we are using the input less. For example, to increase this much output, so this is the input we used from both sides, OX side and OY side. Okay, this may be labor, this may be capital. So here, to increase the output to the same level of output, so this much is the input we are using. Okay, that means to increase the same level of the output, using the input is decreasing. Okay, so that is thing. Okay, this will explain that that one. Okay, with the proportionate change in the output is more than the proportionate change in the input. Okay, here 100 to produce 100 commodities, the first this much quantity of the labor and capital used. To produce the same amount of the 100 commodities extra, we used this much extra labor and capital. And to produce the same amount of 100 commodities, we used only this much one. So means by increasing the technology, by increasing the efficiency of the production, by decreasing the wastages, so by increasing the same level of the output, so using the inputs percentage is decreasing. Okay, that's why it is here due to increasing the technology, efficiency, decreasing the wastages, optimal utilization of the resources. All are the reasons. Okay, all are the reasons for the increasing returns. Okay. Okay, the second category is known as the second type of the return scale is known as the constant. Okay, returns to scale. Okay, constant return to scale is the second category. In case of this one, the proportional change in the output and the proportional change in the input are same. For example, inputs were changed around 20%. To increase the production, inputs were changed. So it was inputs were changed by 20%. But here, the output also, the total production also changed 20%. If this is the case, is known as the constant return to scale. Okay, in case of the constant return to scale, okay, in case of the constant return to scale, on the OX axis, we can see one factors of production called labor. On the OY axis, we can see another factors of production is called capital. Of course, so this is the expansion part. Okay, please remember that this is called expansion part. So these are called isoquant curves. The isoquant curves are changing with equal ratio. Okay, with equal ratio. This is called constant return to scale. So here, the input to change ratio, output to change ratio, both are same. Okay, both are same. Okay, to increase this much output, we use this much of labor and this much of the capital. In the next level, if the producer want to increase the production, you want to change the what is called input. So here, this to get this much of the production, use this much of the input. And to increase this much of the production, so you use same level of the inputs. Okay, to increase this much of the production, so you use the same level of the output. So here, but the percentage of change in the input and the percentage change of the output, both are the same. If this is the case, which is known as the constant return to scale. And the third one is known as the, what is known as a diminishing. Okay, diminishing or decreasing. Diminishing returns to scale. Okay, diminishing return to scale. So in this case, the percentage of change output is less than, okay, less than percentage of change in input. Okay, percentage change in the input. So this is this is another thing. Okay, the percentage change in the output is less than the percentage change in the input. For example, if the producer want to increase the production, definitely you want to change the input first. Suppose inputs were increased by 20%. In particular company, input were changed by 20%. So when the producer changed the input to or increased 20%, but output increased only 10%. Okay, only 10%. Okay, this is the case. This is the case is known as a diminishing return to scale. So in this particular case, the percentage change in the output is only 10%, whereas the percentage change in the input is 20%. Okay, this is the thing. So this is called so in this particular case, we can see the diagram like this. Okay, this is called of course OX axis, where we measure the labor. This is called OY axis, where we measure the capital. Of course, this is the expansion path. Expansion path, nothing but the firm is expanding, means production is increasing. If we want to increase the production, definitely we have to increase the input. So this will explain the isoquant curve. Isoquant curve. So here, when we are talking about this one, these inputs are gap is changing like that. This is the thing. Okay, if we want the production this much labor and this much capital we are using, to get the same amount of the output, we are using this much of labor and this one. To increase the same amount of the output, so we are using this much of this one. Okay, the gap between these two is greater, is less than this one. Okay, the gap is increasing. Means to get the same output, we have to use the more input. Yes, see, to get the same amount of the output, we are using this much of input. Okay, this gap is more than this one. So here, due to decreasing the technology or old firm, technologically not upgraded, resources may not be utilized properly, mismanagement, entrepreneurs inefficiency, due to so many reasons, if all the resources are not utilizing properly, the wastage will be there in the company. So that's why to get the same level of the quantity or output, we have to give the less we have to give more input. So in this case, so the amount of change in the output is less than the percentage change in the input. So that is what we can see in case of the law of the return to scale. Okay, the same law of return to the scale will explain in this way also. Okay, this line will explain the increasing returns. Please, this is called increasing returns. And this is called constant returns. Okay, this is called constant returns. And this is known as the decreasing returns. Okay, decreasing returns. Called decreasing returns. Okay, increasing returns, constant returns, and decreasing returns. These are the three types we can measure. So here the scale of production and so the production of returns. So that is here we can see input. So here we can see output. On the y-axis axis we can see output. So in this particular cases, whenever these inputs are increasing, the output are also increasing. Output is increasing, which is called increasing returns. But in this case, even though the inputs are increasing, the production, that is output, is constant, the same, remain constant. So which is called constant returns. But after this one, whenever the inputs are increasing, the product returns is diminishing, which is called diminishing returns. So all we can see in the same diagram. Okay, this is the increasing returns, this is the constant returns, and this is called diminishing returns. So like that, these three type of the returns to scale we can discuss. So increasing return, diminishing, and constant returns. So in the long run, no negative returns. If it is in the short run, what we observed in the short run? In the short run, that is the law of variable proportion. We can see, okay, we see that increasing returns we discussed in the first stage. In the second stage, we can see constant returns. Okay, constant returns we see. And in the third stage, of course, we observed even negative returns also we observed. So this is in the what is known as in a short period. Okay, in case of the short period, so this we can see. But whereas in the long-term production function, there will not be the negative returns. Why? In the long run, no producer will continue the production with the negative. No producer will continue the production with losses. Negative, nothing but loss. So that's why if the firm is getting the loss or negative returns, the producer is going to be close the company. So, but he may not continue his production with negative returns or loss in the long run period. If it is the short run, he will continue for some time, because in the some time he may get the loss, but in the long run, so in the after sometimes he may expect the profit in the future. That's why by bearing the negative returns in the short run, you will continue the production. So negative returns may be there in the short run production function, but whereas there will not be negative returns in the long run production. So that's why in the long run we can see increasing returns we can see. And we can see constant returns we can see. And we can see diminishing returns we can see. Profits may be decreases, but no negative, no loss for the company. So these three we can observe in this particular cases. So that is what is known as the law of return to scale, which belongs to production analysis. Okay, law of variable proportionate, and law of return to scale. These are the very two important topics in the production analysis. And the next one is consumption. That is the utility analysis. Consumer side. Okay, till now we discussed from the producer side. Now your focus should be from the consumer side. Okay, consumer, producer will produce the commodities. That commodities will purchase by the consumer and will eat it. That is consuming it. Okay, there will be consumption. Once we consume the commodities, after the consumption of the commodities, what will be there? So we will get the utility. That utility can be divided into two categories. So one is the cardinal utility. See, it is called C. Okay, one is a cardinal utility and another one is a ordinal utility. Okay, cardinal utility and ordinal utility. In case of the cardinal utility, whatever the utility will get by the consumer, that utility can be measured in terms of the numbers. But ordinal utility will explain that once we consume the commodities, definitely we will get the utility. Whatever the utility we are getting from the consumption of the commodity, that utility cannot be measured, can be compared. When we are eating two commodities, definitely we will get the utility and we can say that which one is giving more utility than others. A is greater than the B or B is greater than A, something like that we can say. But exactly we can say that A was given this much utility and B was given this much utility. That we cannot. Okay. So utility can be measured. Concept was there in the microeconomics developed by Alfred Marshall. Utility cannot be measured, but it can be compared from one commodity utility to another commodity utility. That concept was developed by J.R. Hicks or J.D. Allen. That is one other point of view. Okay, regarding the utility can be measured based on that theory, that is called cardinal utility. Okay, based on the cardinal utility, there are some important theories like law of diminishing marginal utility and law of equimarginal utility. Okay, law of diminishing marginal utility is one, and law of diminishing law of equimarginal utility is another one. Okay, these are the two important aspects we can see. But when you come to the ordinal utility, here, in case of the ordinal utility, utility can be get by the consumer when the consumer is consuming the goods, but that utility cannot be measured. It can be compared. That concept was developed by J.R. and R.G. Allen, and that concept based on that ordinal utility, based on the utility can be comparison. Based on that concept, there is one important theory was there. That theory is known as the indifference curve analysis. Okay, indifference curve analysis. So indifference curve analysis is one of the most important theory in the to understand the consumer behavior. Okay, so indifference curve analysis or theory, it is also very important for examination point of view. Okay, indifference curve analysis is developed based on the ordinal utility, where utility cannot be measured, can be only compared based on that theory. So the indifference curve analysis was developed. So here, indifference curve, which is called IC, means an indifference curve is a graphical representation of a combined product that gives a similar kind of satisfaction to a consumer, thereby making them the indifferent. Okay, in the indifference curve analysis, we can understand that when the consumer is using the combination of the product, if the combination of the product are there indifferent in the same curve, all the combinations will give the same utility, same level of the satisfaction. And every point on the indifference curve, that is any combination, if that is in the same indifference curve, okay, that is any point in the on the indifference curve, shows that an individual or consumer is indifferent between the two products as it gives in the same kind of the utility. Combinations may be different, products may be different. If they are in the same curve, okay, the point may be different, but the curve is different. Curve is the same. Okay, that is called with different combinations. If the point is there in the same curve, all points will give the same level of the satisfaction, the same kind of the utility, so it will be get. So when you are talking about this indifference curve, there are some important features, which is called properties. Properties of indifference curve are characters of the indifference curve, features of the indifference curve. Okay, indifference curve assume that individuals have the stable and ordered preferences and seek to maximize their utility. Okay, in the same curve with different combinations, people will get the level of the satisfaction with the same. But here, consumer behavior always will try to seek more utility. Producer behavior is like get the more profit. Like that here, the consumer behavior always will try to get the more level of the satisfaction. Okay, more consumption will be, we can see. So based on this one, this indifference curve will have this some important properties like the indifference curve always, it will be downward slope. Okay, the indifference curve always, it will be downward slope like this. Please remember, this will be like that. It will be downward slope. And the slope of the indifference curve is convex. Okay, this is the convex. Okay, this is called convex to the origin. This is origin, convex to the origin. So because if we want to get the same level of the satisfaction, when we are increasing one commodity, definitely we have to decrease another commodity. Suppose we are using this much combination of this is the A, this is the B, we are getting some utility. And if the consumer want to increase this commodity, and automatically he has to decrease this commodity. So if you want to increase this, you have to decrease this one. Then only the producer or the consumer will get the same level of the satisfaction. Okay. And the curve plotted higher and further to the right, corresponding with higher the level of the utility. So if the consumer is increasing both commodities, automatically the level of the satisfaction increases. If the level of the satisfaction increases, the indifference curve will go up, will move upward, like that. If the same level of the satisfaction will be getting by the consumer, the point will be changing the same curve. If the level of satisfaction is increasing, means the indifference curve is moving upwards. The indifference curve moving upwards means the level of satisfaction is increasing. Otherwise, your indifference curve is coming down. That is, moving backward means the level of satisfaction is decreasing. And various indifference curves can never cross or overlap. So indifference curve will be downward slope and convex to the origin. And the indifference curve will maybe move upwards whenever the level of the satisfaction increasing. Like it is moving upwards, it may be coming downwards also if the level of the satisfaction is decreasing. So like that, the indifference curves maybe moves upwards and downwards, but the indifference curve will not be overlap. That means the indifference curves will not be like this. They may be convex to the origin. They are also downward slope, but they are not touching each other. Without touching each other, the indifference curve will be there. Okay, indifference curve will be there. At the same time, we can draw number of indifferences curve in between two curves without touching each other. Please remember this point. Okay, we can draw like this indifference curve in between two without touching each other. Without touching each other, we can draw number of indifferences curves. Okay, they are not in the L shape. They will not be in the straight line. Okay, they will not be upward slope. They will not be concave to the origin. Okay, all these are wrong. Indifference curve will not be like that. The indifference curve always will be like that. And indifference curve may not be touched OX axis and OY axis also. So this is also not true. So always the indifference curve, so like this only. Like that. So this is the indifference curve. We can see. Okay, yeah. That is what I told you. So the indifference curve map refers to a set of indifference curve that reflects an understanding and give an entire view of the consumer choices. Okay, so the set of indifferences curves, this is IC1, IC2, IC3. The set of indifferences curve is known as the indifference curve maps. Okay, and here, when we are talking about this indifference curve, definitely we have to talk about the budget line. Because here the indifference curve will explain the level of the satisfaction after consuming the goods. If we want to consume the goods, first we have to purchase the commodities, no? To purchase the commodities, what is required? Amount is required. The price is required. Money is required. How much money is there with you? And what are the prices for the both commodities? We have to know. Based on that, we can draw the budget line. Budget line shows the combination of goods that can be afforded with your current income. So how much income you have and how much income you have with you and what are the prices of the both commodities with the available income of the prices. What are the different type of the combinations are going to purchasing by the consumer? We'll explain the budget line. Okay, we'll explain the budget line. So this is called budget line. Suppose these are the combinations. We can see both commodity A, B, C, D, E. These are the combinations. Y good and X commodity. So with the combination, based on the availability of the your income and price. Suppose you are purchasing this 8, okay, 8 rupees, 8 commodities, 6 commodities, 4, 2, 0 means whenever you want to increase one commodity, you have to decrease another commodity, no? That's why this is the budget table. Based on that, so these are the combination. If you are purchasing total 8 commodities, you are purchasing 0 commodities. You based on your income. Suppose you are purchasing to 6 commodities of this much, you are purchasing 1 commodity of X. Suppose you are purchasing only 4 goods of this one, you are purchasing 2 goods of this one. Okay, when you are purchasing only 2 commodities of the Y, you are purchasing this one. Suppose you are purchasing total 4 commodities and Y may not be purchased. By combining all this combination, we are going to draw one line which is known as the budget line. Okay, this line is known as the budget line. You know the indifferences curve. Okay, the indifferences curve will be like that, like this. And you know the budget line, this is called budget line. So where your budget line is going to be intersected. Okay, where your budget line, this is a budget line. Of course, this is the indifference curve. It was touched here. So where the budget line touches the indifference curve, there the consumer will get the equilibrium by consuming this much of Y and this much of X. By consuming this much of X and consuming this much of Y, the consumer will get the equilibrium level. Okay, that is called indifferent consumer equilibrium of analysis. Okay, this will be we can discuss like that. Okay, so this is of course Y axis measured in the Y commodity. This is the X axis where you measure the X commodity. Okay, these are the indifference curves. These are the indifference curves. This is the budget line. Consumer will get the equilibrium where the indifference curve will touch the indifference curve. So there the consumer will get the equilibrium by purchasing this much of X and purchasing by consuming this much of the N. So this is called consumer equilibrium. Okay, if you want any doubt, please ask me. Or send in the chat box, I will respond you.
Class is over, huh?